Sabine. I've worked in this building for 7 long years, and in that time I have seen 3 ambassadors come and go, and none of them were in any doubt who was a man and who was a woman. It is wild how much has changed since I quit my job in 2021. The current German ambassador, Her Excellency Frau Nicole Menzenbach, no longer recognizes the difference between men and women, or the difference between sex and gender. And it seems she also can't tell the difference between identity and mental illness. She states that pretending to be something you're not is a basic human right. The journalist Jennifer Bilek appropriately calls this pretense sex deception, which might be a lot of things, but a human right it is not. I have no idea how it is now in there, but while I worked at the German embassy, no one even mentioned things like self-ID, and our email signatures did not dictate anyone's pronouns, that's for sure. If I'd been asked to call a man Frau so and so, I would have refused, even if it meant risking my job. In fact, part of why I left, teeny tiny part, it was because I had a smidgen of an inkling of where things were headed. But I admit, even in my most cynical outlook, I never saw sex self-ID coming. I did not. Forcing people by law to take part in someone's delusion is so absurd, so grotesque, that only enlightened novelists like George Orwell and Aldous Huxley could make it up. Letting people legally lie about something as basic as their sex is creating a dystopian society that has absolutely no chance of happiness or good fortune. Being forced by law to tell lies is not progress, that's oppression and even tyranny. One of the most disturbing results of sex self-ID laws is what they mean for homosexuality. Lesbianism, by definition, is an exclusively female world. When a man can simply declare himself female and by law be part of my lesbian spaces, it doesn't just disrupt things, it erases the very definition what it means to be a lesbian. In short, it is deeply homophobic. Laws that force us to lie need to go. They need to be repealed, and they can be repealed, and they will be repealed. That is our fight here in New Zealand, and I know Germany is working on it too. In fact, we're actively involved with Les Reloaded in Berlin.
They're watching.
So greetings from down under, and we stand in solidarity with all our German sisters united in this fight. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name's Maree Doherty, and I'm, as you know, from Lesbian Resistance. I just wanted to put a little bit of a personal touch to a lot of this. My first encounter with men presenting as women was way back in the late 1960s, and I'd just gone to the Big Smoke to work. My best friend and I, we'd gone out on the town to look for some nightlife. Where we came from, there was no nightlife, so it was a big adventure. And we ended up in a little bar called, well, it was a club probably, because they had 10 o'clock closing then, I think, for the pubs. But it was a little bar called the Bo Peep. And we sat there, we were greenies, paid an arm and leg for a drink, And then all of a sudden a door flew open out of the side of this room. And there were two huge men in there fighting. They had frocks on and wigs. One pulled the wig off another one, and there was a bald guy, and we just were horrified, to make an understatement. But I was really more hacked off that I couldn't go to the toilet, because they were in the women's toilets. So what then seemed like a harmless night out in an adult venue is now turned into a nightmare where we're fighting for our reality and truth. My new job in the Big Smoke was I served 5 years in the New Zealand Navy. And if I'd confessed to being a lesbian during that time, I would have been given an instant dishonourable discharge. Today, men can declare themselves women. They can put on a frock because they won't wear trousers. They can go with impunity into the women's barracks. They can go into the changing rooms, the shower block, the toilets, the sleeping quarters. And that's by law. I wouldn't have joined the Navy, that's for sure nowadays. If the men outrank the woman, they have even more power. In all my long years as living as a lesbian, I've never felt so vulnerable, and it's so dangerous to being a lesbian. And that's in the days, comparing to the days when we used to run from the pubs, men chasing us, trying to get out of being beaten up, that kind of atmosphere. Now is more dangerous, because now they'll lock me up for what I have to say. The sex self-ID law in New Zealand and in other Western countries is called, they just call it ID, the ID law, self-ID, ID, has given men permission to force themselves into my private lesbian spaces. I call this a rape on my culture. And I'm disgusted and repulsed by men who would call themselves lesbian. It's homophobic and it's woman-hating. Shame on the politicians who pass these laws and the government officials who allow these men into all the jobs in the public service. They allow mentally ill men with fetishes to take away the rights that women, lesbians, that we fought for and to protect girls. As Lesbian Resistance, we stand in Market Square regularly, every Friday, in a small rural town, and we talk to the public. We take placards, we let them come up to us, and we talk about issues like sex self-ID. And all these years I wondered, what did heterosexual women feel and think about the years of all these men who dressed up as women, the drag queens, the transvestites? What do they feel? I mean, I know I didn't like it, but I never really knew what they felt. The drag queens who dressed up as a mockery of women, a caricature of what women are. And I found out from talking a lot lately, they don't like it at all. They're just like me. In fact, overwhelmingly the men and the women do not like sex self-ID at all. A bill that was snuck in on the back of another bill and forced people to go along with something they never even approved of. The days of being kind and generous, they're long over. You give an inch to a mentally ill man and they take a mile. Forcing something so unnatural on women and girls is not only insulting, it's very, very dangerous, especially for girls and children. Well, aren't we lucky here in New Zealand? The lefties haven't pushed through these hate bills, the bills that they want to push through to suppress us from having a debate, telling the truth, like women like me want to tell. And that is that you can't change your sex. Sex is not an identity. Men cannot be women, women cannot be men. And there's no such thing as a trans child. It's just pure child abuse, what they're doing. So a big hello to the German sisters. We stand firmly here beside you, Lesbian Resistance, and I'm sure everybody here. And good luck in your fight. These bills have to be repealed, especially this one. And keep fighting and keep resisting.